Alright, let's talk about Amazon Elastic Load Balancing, right? So let me first explain you the scenario. Why do we need Elastic Load Balancer? Um, you are planning to deploy your website on either on Apache server or on Windows or like IIS server. So your website is hosted over there and you are just using a single server. All of a sudden your website became too popular and you started getting crazy amount of traffic during morning times from 9 o'clock to 12 p.m. Okay? And the traffic is so high that your IIS server is getting the request, processing it for your client and send it back to the client's machine. But because of number of clients went up, so that's why you are not able um, to process. Because of number of clients growing up, your clients are experiencing issues with the performance of your website. Now that's the time you should go with elastic load balancing. What elastic load balancing does, it automatically distributes your application traffic across a multiple servers or multiple EC2 servers. It also enables you to achieve a fault tolerant or a seamlessly, providing the required amount of load balancing capability for to route your application traffic. So let's review this now. Amazon ELB is just a simple service that is provided by Amazon to distribute the incoming load to your application across multiple EC2 servers or EC2 computers or servers or EC2 clusters. It allows you to achieve a great amount of fault tolerance. That's the big thing about this fault tolerance, right? You can perform a load balancing for all your incoming data. So let's say your web server is getting 1,000 requests per minute. You can divert the 500 requests for first server and the rest of the 500 to a different EC2 instance. Okay, it supports enabler ELB with the single availability zone or multiple availability zones. So you can create, just put an this ELB will divert all your traffic into a east or into a west or into a east 1B and into a east 1C. It uses the VPC to distribute the traffic between the application layers, so that if you want your traffic just to be for the intranet, you are using a VPC, so your data and your traffic is still gonna be protected. There are two types of load balancing. One is a classical, the second one is the application load balancer, right? So there are total two types of load balancers that are available right now. Again, let's look at the architecture diagram for this, and so that will clarify all your doubts that you have. Okay, so let's look at this diagram. As you guys can see, this is your VPC where all your EC2 instances are stored. All the client computers are trying to access the website that is deployed in this EC2 instance. So before they talk to this EC2 instance, they need to send a request to this load balancer, and load balancer will determine which EC2 instance has a bandwidth to process this client request. Depending upon them, it will divert the traffic either to here or here, whichever EC2 instance is available. Okay? Let's look at one more diagram. Okay? Just think about this as your entire AWS architecture or entire your company's data center. You have EC2 instances in availability zone 1E and availability zone 1D. Your elastic load balancer is right over here. This is your IMA user. And remember, there can be millions of users similar to this, right? So all the user load will come to this elastic load balancer. Depending upon the availability, it will send the request. Now let's say your one server can only process like 100 requests per minute, and this only can process 100 requests per minute as well. So elastic distributor load balancer helps us balance the load right now. But you can also configure a CloudWatch and the auto scaling group so that it will spin up a new EC2 instance, and it will start diverting traffic to the third one as well if this one and this one are completely full of their capacity. So you can spin up as many as you want depending upon what kind of auto scaling policy you set it up in your environment. So then it's just gonna start creating more and more EC2 instances, right? So that's the way it manages the traffic. So that's why the load balancing is the most important things that out there. Now let's just look at this diagram one more time. These are all your HTTPS, that means your websites, right? Again, it all goes through the same traffic elastic load balancer, and then it diverts the traffic to the different EC2 instances. So that is more like the high level architecture of EC2 or elastic load balancer. Okay. There are two types of load balancers. One is a classic load balancer, and the another one is the application load balancer. So the classic load balancer, what it does, it routes the traffic based on the application and is ideal for simple load balancing traffic across multiple EC2 instances where high availability, automatic scaling, and robust security are required. Okay, so that's why you go with the classical load balancing. For the application load balancing, it is a load balancing option that comes with the elastic load balancing that usually operates at the application layer and allow you to route the rule to define the routing rules based on the content across the multiple services or containers running on one or more Amazon EC2 instances, right? So there are two types again, classical load balancer or like application load balancer. Depending upon your requirement, you pick. Most of the time, we always prefer to go with the classical load balancer. But again, if your application requirement is that can only be satisfied by application load balancer, then you have to go with that one only. It supports, especially application load balancer supports a content-based routing, right? Host-based routing. So for example, if you have deployed yahoo.com in uh, through the different availability zone in West, East, in Canada, in Australia, Asia. So if a user tried to access yahoo.com, you want to process that request or route it based on the host location. So your host service or application would be such a way that it will be processed through that, right? Nearest location. So you can even configure that as well. All right, let's go to the next one. What are the benefits of elastic load balancer? Availability, that is the highest benefit. Now just think about it. What you are doing, you are trying to serve the customer irrespective of your infrastructure, because for most of the website, a customer, they are driven by the customer business. If your customers are experiencing a slower performance, eventually they will go away from your website. So that's why you want to make sure their request gets processed as soon as it arrives. So in terms of availability, if your EC2 instance is completely out of computing power for that particular minute, then you can just easily create the replica of that EC2 instance, or load balancer will divert all the requests to another EC2 instance. So your application is going to be highly available at all the time, and it will also give you a response within a set amount of time only, right? So you can achieve a greater performance with elastic load balancer or balancing. Secure, right? And elastic load balancer works with the VPC. So as I showed you the diagram, your elastic load balancer was configured in your VPC only, right? So it provides the, you can always configure a VPC such a way that it's a public facing or it's a private facing, right? So you can do it either way. Uh, you can also implement a multi-tier architecture using an internal and internal-facing load balancers to route the traffic between the application tiers, right? So, and you can also enable SSL and the TLS certification for your website just for the security purpose. So, it's lot of benefits are there, right? Availability, security, elastic. Now, let's just talk about elastic load balancing. The one more major benefit is the elasticity. So ELB or elastic load balancing automatically scales its request to handle the capacity to meet the demand on our application traffic. You can even integrate ELB with the auto scaling group, and you can specify minimum number of EC2 instance as 1 and maximum number is 10. So that if your EC2 instances, even after ELB integration, is not able to achieve the same performance, then you can start diverting, creating the auto scale or a new instances and start processing your traffic from that. That's also possible, right? So there are various benefit: availability, elastic, and secure. These are the main benefits for ELB or elastic load balancing. Okay, let's go to the next one. What are the use cases that are being supported with this? Um, just think about it. You can build a fault tolerant. Your application should be available at all the time, right? Your application should be available at all the time to your customers. So you and they should be able to get the response within a set amount of time. Then this is the place. Your servers would never be occupied or like completely. ELP will manage all the incoming traffic and divert it to the particular or proper EC2 instance, right? So if no routes, longer routes traffic to those nodes are possible, then you can just use the auto scale option and scale up your servers to start processing it from the different servers, right? The main benefit that I see with the elastic load balancing is the auto scaling, right? So you always have an option, right? You always have a great option to scale or auto scale with the ELB. Let's say you specify I can have auto scaling for minimum 100 servers, and you are already running your elastic load balancing with let's say 50 servers right now. Now you can specify if the load on the EC2 instances or on the auto scale group goes up by certain percentage, then spin up a 5 more instances, and if the load goes down, then just remove the 5 instances and just make the count as like 50. So you can achieve all the minimum maximum node count with auto scaling option as well. And the best thing about ELB, it is integrated completely with the auto scaling, right? So that's why that's the beauty about Amazon AWS. You can configure, and you remember, you use what you pay for what you use. You are just paying a hourly charge. So if you are just using 15 different servers at a particular time, and during the peak hours or during the load, if you auto scale it for like 5 more nodes, then you are just paying for that 5 additional nodes, right? So my point is, you pay for what you use. That's the benefit about Amazon. Okay, what about the pricing? The pricing, it again, it all depends, right? Which region you go with. Either you can go with East or West or Asia, or there are other regions as well. Each region will have a specific price. So for right now, it's a 2 cents or maybe like 0.025 cents per partial per hour for the elastic load balancer.